continue our talk on the article that was written in the Christian Chronicle. We talked a great deal about the virtual church, the pros of that, the cons that can be of it, and we talked a little bit about titles, and I didn't think that was a biggie. But we started last time, they were talking about unscriptural church practices. Okay? Unscriptural church practices. And I thought Gene had a great comment last week. What is wrong with instruments? Like those of us who have been raised, like the first place I went after I was born besides home was to the church. And I was raised, in the church, and I was raised that, we do not use instruments. We did not celebrate Christmas as a religious holiday. We did not recognize Easter. And if you danced, you were going to hell. Things like that. I mean, my parents wrote a note. If there was going to be square dancing in gym class, Garth does not participate in that. Well, my kids have been taught a little bit different about things. Now, I had Dr. John McCrae, one of the best Bible teachers I had in college. And Dr. McCrae, he went to Wheaton. Lipscomb thought he was a little bit too liberal, but he did write a pamphlet on why he quit dancing. And there were 2 or 3 great points in there that can be applied to anything, but other things too. And like a couple of them I think I can remember. One was, even though you might be in control of yourself, you're still responsible for the other person. Are they in control of themselves? And then the other thing was anything that would bring up or cause, ungodly thoughts, is dangerous. And I think those are good things. I would sneak out and slow dance. My parents wouldn't know, and my favorite Unchained Melody, okay, that was my favorite one. The girl would have her hands around my neck, and I'd have them on her waist, and then I'd blow on her neck, and she would just melt. You remember those days, don't you, Bob?
Yes.
But yeah, there are some advantages. I mean, there are some good points to that too. The way kids dance today, herking and jerking and all over the place, I don't think there's a problem with that. But there are some practices that probably would be unscriptural. Now, they talk in here about the churches that have performances and productions and things like that. And I'm being redundant that I'm saying that those accusations oftentimes are false. Because I've been in places like that, and I think it has been very powerful worship. Very powerful worship. And various things like that. I suppose it can be a production. I know there's a Kensington church, and there's 2 or 3 Kensington churches up in the Metro Detroit area. And they have a production on Sunday morning. And see, but their service, they want to bring in unchurched people. They want to bring in people that would not go into a church. And they get them on Sunday morning, and it's pretty good. And they'll have a message and things like that. And that's how they, bring them in. And I've been told their real service is on Tuesday evening. But that's their thought. Paul McKenzie, who was here 2 weeks ago, they attend a church that is seeker sensitive now. They're looking for people who are looking for something. Kazumite. Okay. That means God bless you in what, Polish?
German.
Oh, okay. I think some things to think about on that. A friend of mine, Mike Roller, called me, and the church he goes into, Nashville, they seem to be getting a lot of people coming to church who are below the poverty line, and so they're changing their mission, their outreach, and they're studying how they can reach out to these people. Now, sometimes a church, decisions will be made, but we don't know how the body feels about it, the church body. I don't know if the church helped me, but when we did this out here, did we ask the church what they thought about that?
No.
Okay, no. And sometimes it might be good to see what people might think. Does that make sense to you? You know, we're looking at this Candy Church program to try to bring people in. Well, if we get them in the door, then we got to do something. And if the church is not in favor of that, then we probably shouldn't do it right now and waste money. And maybe we should spend more lessons on, our responsibility to the lost. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And so when we talk about, unscriptural things, there'll be things that that might be unscriptural to you, that not me, and vice versa. I go back to the Restoration movement, in that, to me, the gospel is Jesus lived, he died, he was born of a virgin, he lived, he died, he was buried, he was resurrected, and he's coming again. That's my idea of the gospel. Our young granddaughter, she's going to be a senior. And she's got a heart like her grandmother and her great-grandmother. And Laney's got a boyfriend for the first time, and it's his first girlfriend. And Ronan's not with the church, and he's asking questions about it. And he's just struggling with why, about Jesus being resurrected from the dead. We just went through Easter and that. And Laney's trying to talk with him, and, she probably, he probably needs someone else to speak to him. He doesn't need someone to talk to him about women being silent in the church, instrumental music, and various things like that. That's not what he needs to be taught right now. He needs to be taught the gospel. And that Jesus was resurrected. Why do we believe that Jesus was resurrected? And we need to know why we believe that. Okay, sermon on why I believe Jesus was resurrected. I need to do that. And so, like, if Ronan, let's just be honest, if Ronan came to church here with Laney, and then he went, where does your sister go, Peggy?
Where's my sister go?
Yeah.
Daughter.
Her daughter.
Daughter?
What?
You mean your daughter?
No. Oh, I thought you had a sister that went to another church here, around here.
Cornerstone.
Is that sort of a community church?
Yes.
Yeah. And if he went there, what church would he probably enjoy the most being an 18-year-old?
Probably hers.
Cornerstone. Yeah. And we'll get that, and talk about that a little bit too. You know, how flexible do we need to be? All right? I've talked a lot, you respond.
We've even had a family that visited here, and I think they had 5 children.
Right,
But there wasn't anything for the
right,
children.
that's when I first came, you know, and we worked at it, they sit right over here, you know, but we gotta be honest about that. And maybe we just need to be a church of seniors, but we have a mission, what we're going to do. You know, what about, like, you know, I mentioned this before, but you served the people yesterday. What about, you know, offering to bring them to church? You know, and have some sandwiches for them. Remember my sermon that I preached on who are you inviting to dinner? And Jesus said, invite those people. Or maybe, I don't know if we can go to places where it's assisted living or whatever, and can those people go out and we could have a bus, we don't have a bus, or a van or something, to bring them to church, those who wanted to go. Or what about if we offered church service, if we got in it and offered a church service for those people? You know, what is it that we can do?
Yesterday, there was a Baptist church that was giving away Bibles on the 4 corners there.
Yeah.
And several people came in with the Bibles as they were coming in to eat. And then there was another guy that came in, and he had these orange thing, bright orange, they're about that. They were, and I thought, what is he giving away there? They were umbrellas, but it looked like it was gonna rain out. But he had come in, that was his program, if it rains, give them umbrellas.
Yeah.
That's what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. Back in bus ministry, anyone ever been involved in a bus ministry? Okay. And the best guy I've ever known was Rick Moore, youth director from Linden Road Church of Christ, who had about 1,000 members. And the building now is owned by a Presbyterian church or something. And here was his downfall. He was speaking on marriage, divorce, and remarriage in a Bible class. And he was saying, here are the different views that people have on this. You know, and he was from Harding. He said, this Jimmy Allen's view of that. And one of the elders said, what do you believe? You know, and he told him, I believe this. That was the wrong answer for that elder. And that church just separated. Okay, anything else before we go on? Yes.
You know, something I was thinking about with my daughter, younger daughter that lives up, she's been here quite often. But Faye could probably address this more, but I know she's tried several different churches, and one thing I've noticed when we've gone to church with them is that when they do the music, where people will raise their hands, and I noticed when I kind of look around that some people do that, some people
Right.
don't. And when you see on TV, not necessarily even a rock concert, but even a concert, you know, people are always, you know, waving their arms, and that was just kind of a eye-opener to me.
It was what?
Eye-opener
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
because
I mean, yeah. And I go to those places and, you know, and I've been taught not to raise my arms, but the Bible talks about lifting holy hands.
yeah, I can't because of arthritis in my leg.
But, you know, and I've been, like, you know, just getting into it, praising the Lord, you know, or getting on your knees and various things like that. sometimes I'm moved to do those things. I'm moved to do those things. Now, with you, I can get my arms about this high. Okay? You know, there's some places I can go that high. I haven't been this yet. Yeah, so, yeah, and so, yeah. It may, you know, we need, what is our niche? I run a basketball camp. I started in 1980. We put 1,500 kids through that camp every summer now. We don't advertise. It's a word of mouth camp. And we have a waiting list. Johnny will tell you how long it is. But we found our niche. And our niche was not 14 and 15 and 16-year-old kids. That wasn't our niche. Our niche is 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10-year-old kids. And that, we focus on that. And, you know, and every day, they hear, no one loves you like your parents. Okay? We have a theme every day. Not being a bully. What's a good sportsman? You know, I give them a book. I give them a speech every year, the same thing. And then we give them a little book. The first part is for the parents. The second part is for the kids. The third part is what we learned at camp. I've had businesses ask me, can I have that book? Okay, we found our niche. And if we would have tried to have our niche 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, it wouldn't happen. When they get that old, they want to go see Tom Izzo. All right? And we need to have that discussion. What is our niche? Make any sense, Bob?
It's, what it seems like we're doing now is trying to reach everything. And we're not really getting anything. And we don't, you know, we're a congregation, believe it or not, of older people.
Yes.
We don't have a lot of energy. So it might be better if we pick one or two certain areas and try to focus in on that and see how it works. But it's, I'd love to see this place full of kids, but I don't think any of us have the energy to take too many kids right now. And it might be something better to focus in on elderly to, you know, there's a lot of older people that are either searching or they've already found Christ, but they, like Jim and Doreen, I believe one of the big problems they have is she's so bad off with health, they really can't even get out and do anything.
Who's Jim Norman?
They used to come here a couple of years ago, and there's a lot of Dee Davis, I think it is. She doesn't come anymore. She used to, and there's people that are out there wanting to have a fellowship and everything, but I don't think we're doing a good job of reaching the ones that we do know of. And I think if we do a lot better job on calling them and trying to befriend them better, I think we might do better there. But I think we need to pick a couple of spots and try to work on them.
Good, yeah, yes.
I've been trying to talk with Aaron, Larry and Tammy, who came a couple times here recently. But I said, you know, we're an older congregation, and just be upfront. You'll never find anybody. It's like going into a congregation having a whole bunch of grandparents. I don't want to get them all built up thinking, oh, they're going to come and there's going to be a lot of kids and stuff. It's like, no, it's Nova and Luna, if they're here, but you'll never find a more loving congregation with a bunch of grandparents. And so she's really thinking hard about coming.
Good, yeah. Good. Bob?
I'm trying to find the author's name, but there's a booklet and a program called Find Something Right with the World. It's not designed for Church of Christ or even church period, but Find Something Right with the World. And if you look at a lot of our problems in the churches, it's fairly easy for people to find something wrong and champion that cause.
It's Billy Currington.
Okay.
Billy Currington appears to be the author.
And he's a photographer for National Geographic, and he's talking about finding the picture. And his theory is very simple but plausible. Find something right with the world, he says, there's always a picture there, but you have to find it. And at a casual glance, there's no picture there. But when you develop a habit of finding something right with the world, it'll change you. And we did that series at Lapeer. But how do we change our mindset from finding something wrong to finding something right? And I think we talked before, who's the guy that lives next door to Barbara Cunningham? It's a well-known preacher in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And he says that we got to find something right with each other. Now, what do we usually find?
Yeah.
Something
You
wrong.
know,
But he has a church growth thing that says churches that were on the doorstep of extension, the ones who turned it around and that church become a viable church, the common thing they had was everybody got credit for everything they did. Now, I'm assuming that would be membership and leaders. But I don't find Jesus being ultra critical. And how do you change a mindset? No, that's been
You-
negative for so long.
what goes into the mind, what goes in
Comes out.
comes out. Okay? I think that was maybe one of the sessions in ACL. It's been a long time. I taught a class at the college called Life Learning Skills. Okay? See, in school, you go to school from when you're 5 through college, and you learn a lot of stuff. But I'm not sure if we learn how to live. You know, we learn how to, diagram a sentence or to dissect a frog. We learn the invaluable lesson of how to figure out the square root of an isosceles triangle, something I use every day. Sorry, math teacher. But we don't teach kids how to live. And this focused on things like feeling good about yourself. It talked about relationships. And when I have a guest on campus and I go around introducing them to people, the person I'm introducing them to, this is Jenny May. You can't find a better human resource person than Jenny. Okay? This is Gary. He's our head of maintenance. What a great job he does. Everybody that I talk to, I build them up. Here's what I tell people. If you want to look at my faults, I've got a lot of warts. But you have to look really close at me to look at the good. And that's, I think I think we're really good people. The majority of people are really good.
Amen.
And they do good things. But, it's like on a basketball team. You might have a couple knuckleheads. Our first national championship, I recruited 2 kids from the Bronx. And they were good players. 6'2" point guard, a big 6'7" kid. They didn't respect their teammates. They didn't respect their teachers. They didn't respect girls. And I kicked them off the team. They never played for me. My tallest starter was 6'2". I told Pat, we're not going to win many games this year. And we won our first national championship. And if I'd have kept those 2 knuckleheads, we'd have won. And it's sort of like in church. I stayed at the other place I was at probably 5 to 10 years too long. Okay? And I can go back and see how we started to have problems. An eldership that didn't trust each other. And things like that. Okay, I think my time is about up. Thank you for your input. Next week we're going to talk about, still got those hands, don't I? Still have those hands. We're going to talk about unity in the church. And I think you know how I feel about that, unity in the church. And then they talk about, young people. And what do young people? We need to reflect on that. Is what might be good to them, is it wrong? Are we willing, what changes are we willing to make?
Depends on what the Bible says.
Pardon?
It depends on what the Bible says.
Tell me louder, you've got soft voice.
She said, it depends what the Bible says.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, but what's one of our problems there?
Interpretation.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, I know people that take Ephesians 5:19 and they say, this is what it means. I said, no, And then in our movement, going back, one of the splits we had, people said, if the Bible doesn't say don't do it, you're welcome to do it. And then we said, if the Bible says not to do it, if the Bible doesn't say anything about it, then you don't do it. I might have messed that up a little bit, but you understand what I'm saying. So next week, you look at unity and look at young people. And I hope this is creating some thoughts for us. Maybe when I came in, I got the cart ahead of the horse. What is our niche? What do we want to do here? If the church isn't for, is it called Candy Church?
Church Candy is the name.
Church Candy. If the members aren't for that,
That's a company's name, by the way. They help.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
It's basically an advertising
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah. And, that can be explained to the church. Does anybody know, do we have our website up, Jerry?
Yes.
We do?
Yes.
Is anybody here, can you walk us through it, how to use it?
Just go there. On the internet.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. We need to have some time for that. Hey, thanks for your input. Look forward to our message today. Honest Thomas and potluck.